Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to DaveyJay Today. I'm your host, DaveyJay, and today we are going to talk about The Exorcist Believer. And prepare yourself, because there's going to be some spoilers. Now, this movie is being destroyed by critics on YouTube, Rotten Tomatoes, everywhere pretty much where they review movies. And I think it's because they have the wrong idea. And by definition, sequels and prequels are inferior films, and I think most film fans and film critics know this. So don't disappoint yourself by trying to get this to stand up to the original Exorcist. Davey, 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 Davey. Before we get started, I just want you to know how much of a devoted fan of the Exorcist franchise I really am. So check this out. The Exorcist on CED. I'm so loyal to the Exorcist franchise. I have this movie pretty much on every single format. This is the special edition 25th anniversary Laserdisc. This has the director's cut, deleted scenes, the documentary on it. I believe it came out in 1998. Check this out. This is Betamax. This came out in the mid-70s, I believe. It's just like a big box. You know, when you were buying Betamax back in the day, and there's the Beta logo, you were getting something special. William Peter Blatty's The Exorcist. Dude, it's upside down, but look. How cool is that? It's got this like little window here. And then I even have the full frame, because I heard that when you watch The Exorcist in full frame, you see more. You're missing stuff when you watch it in widescreen, so that's why I bought this one. This is just me giving you, the viewer, some assurance that I care about this franchise, and I know what I'm talking about. This franchise has had a history of pretty bad sequels and prequels, the only good one being The Exorcist 3, and although it's one of my favorite Exorcist sequels, and I love George C. Scott, The Exorcist 3 still has its share of issues. The Exorcist Believer is an American horror film starring Lydia Jewett, Olivia O'Neill, Leslie Odom Jr., and Ellen Burstyn. There are rumors going around that when Blumhouse first contacted Ellen Burstyn, that she was very apprehensive to come back and play Chris MacNeil, but apparently Jason Blum and David Gordon Green kept picking away, and she finally agreed, because apparently she threw out some astronomical amount of money, and they agreed to pay her that. But the catch is that she's going to take the money and donate the whole thing to some acting school of her choice, which is kind of cool and noble, if you ask me. However, when you watch the trailers, you've seen pretty much all of Ellen Burstyn's return in the trailers. It ruins everything. And I don't know why, but Blumhouse is the worst at spoiling their movies with trailers. There's nobody worse. Maybe the Star Wars trailers are pretty bad, but Blumhouse always spoils so many things in their films just by releasing trailers. And it's always a bad sign when these huge plot elements are literally in your trailer, like, honey, you've been missing for 3 days. So this movie begins actually in Haiti. There's this huge earthquake, and it's based on real events, the 2010 earthquake in Haiti, and the wife and the husband, played by Leslie Odom Jr., are basically tourists, and the wife is pregnant, and the husband is a photographer, so he's taking pictures. He's like, I'm going to go get this picture. Okay, honey. And then this creepy kid's like, hey, come with me. I want to bless your baby. And so this little kid takes the pregnant mother into this weird room, and they do this like weird voodoo spell on her, like, anyways, that's not a good impression. But nonetheless, they do this weird voodoo thing on her, and then all of nowhere, there's a huge earthquake, and she's trying to get out of the building that they're in, and everything collapses around them. All the walls are falling down, the ceilings, boom. And the husband's running around trying to find the wife, and the last scene is the wife reaching out for Leslie Odom's character. I don't even know what his name is. Who cares, right? But the wife is like, So basically the wife dies in the earthquake, and she's pregnant, so they tell the husband, you can only save one. And then we get like 12 years later. And now the movie's in a small town in Georgia, which, by the way, I feel that by picking this filming location, they were really trying to capture the essence of Georgetown without being in Georgetown. And I think they got the creeper factor, and it just has a lot of good nuance, and there's like a graveyard and the sidewalks. The architecture just in and around the town looks very reminiscent of 1970s Georgetown, if that makes sense. And also I can see why they filmed The Walking Dead there, because everything is so run down and just very classic looking. So then we're introduced to the two girls who are friends. You got Lydia Jewett, who plays Leslie Odom Jr.'s daughter. And then you have Olivia O'Neill, who plays the other one. I don't even remember their names. Not important. How could you forget the name of Reagan, the girl played by Linda Blair in the original Exorcist? But most of the characters in this movie are forgettable, which is unfortunate and sad. Moving on, the girls decide they want to do this little seance ritual in the woods, which can never be good in a movie, right? So the girls go deep into the woods, do this seance, and the next thing you know, the dad comes home. Hey, where are you, honey? He can't find his daughter, and so he runs to the neighbors and calls them. Hey, where is she? We can't find our daughter either, so they're missing. And then they go looking for him in the woods. It's pretty intense, and you really feel for the dad. I think Leslie Odom Jr. has good enough acting chops to where you really feel for him as a father. So they can't find the daughters, so they call the police. There's search parties looking for the daughters, and they're looking for the young girls. And also you find out that they're 12 years old, just like Linda Blair's character in the original Exorcist film. You get this scene where this hick dude is walking through his dad's barn, and then he finds the girls in like a horse stable, and he starts screaming. It's so goofy. It's like if you found these two girls in your barn, and he's like, Dad! He like screams. It's like so goofy. It's like, come on, man. You wouldn't find these little girls in your barn and just scream at the top of your lungs. Anywho, it's just typical of David Gordon Green. It's very Halloween Kills-ish. Evil dies tonight! They finally find the girls. They do what's called a RAPE test. They try to make it medically similar to the original Exorcist film, where they're poking and prodding her and doing all these scans. After that, they're like, oh, you're clear to go home, even though the girls are acting super weird. Now, they don't have the scar makeup or anything weird happening fully yet, but essentially they're just really confused. So they go home, and we see Leslie Odom tuck his daughter in, and he's like, you can tell me anything, you know that, right? I love you. And the daughter's just like, leave me alone. And we get this really creepy jump scare where it's really reminiscent of the Evil Dead remake from 2013, where out of nowhere the camera just focuses on a demon that's in the background, like, and there's high-pitched music, and it's just a jump scare scene, but it's really creepy. Probably the only part of the movie where I'm just like, whoa! And then after this, there's some unexplainable stuff. The light switch incident, which if you see this movie, you'll see it's kind of stupid. So then after this, there's a demon sequence, which you see in all possession movies. They're acting weird, they're saying weird things, they're getting scars on their faces, and then you have this amazing Christopher Nelson makeup. Now, I got the opportunity last weekend to kind of mingle with Christopher Nelson, the famous Academy Award-winning effects and makeup guru behind movies like Batman Returns from back in the day. So many horror movies that we love and know today. But most notably and recently, he did the Halloween trilogy, Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends. And he's responsible for creating the Michael Myers masks, as well as all the blood makeup, the cuts, the stabs, and all that stuff. That's all Christopher Nelson's work. Now, when I met him over the weekend at H45, which is Halloween 45 Years of Terror Convention in Pasadena, California, we had a brief conversation outside. Well, it wasn't brief. We talked for about 20 minutes, and I told him how impressed I was with his skills, making the Myers mask, and told him I was looking forward to his future projects. And he reminded me that The Exorcist comes out in a couple days, and the best way you could possibly help any filmmaker is by going to see The Exorcist on opening weekend. And so when Christopher Nelson asks you to go see his movie on opening weekend, that's exactly what I did. That's one of the few redeeming elements of this movie, is that the makeup in this movie is amazing. amazing. It's probably just as good as the original Exorcist, if not better. These girls really do look sick and diseased and possessed. Yeah, the cuts and it's just really kind of gross. And bottom line, you don't want anybody else other than Christopher Nelson doing the Exorcist. If there's anybody that you could put in there to do the makeup in the whole film industry, it would be Christopher Nelson, because he's just a genius when it comes to this kind of thing. He's a master of his craft. And so the makeup is second to none, as always, in all of his movies. Even if the writing's bad, the script is bad, poorly shot, the dialogue is like cringy, you can always depend on Christopher Nelson to have some really good makeup, really good effects, all that stuff. So thanks, Christopher Nelson. You did not disappoint. And if anything, it's worth seeing this movie just based on Chris Nelson's effects. Check it out for that, if anything. So as we continue the movie, the biggest and the most controversial part for most people is Ellen Burstyn's cameo. I don't know if I would say she's even a star in the movie or a main character, but she has a couple scenes, and you've pretty much seen most of them in the trailer. She gets sought out by Leslie Odom's character because he has nobody else to go to. And how does he know to contact Chris MacNeil in the movie? Well, she wrote a tell-all book, because in real life, what do people do who go through these crazy situations? They write books. But then you find out that Reagan hasn't talked to her mom in many years. She got mad that she wrote the book, even though in the original Exorcist, she says she doesn't remember anything. So, I mean, I guess, yeah, get mad, but why would you get mad if you really don't remember anything? I don't know. It's just one of those other plot holes that the original movie has with this film. And there's many plot holes. It's just... So, Chris MacNeil is now in the picture, and they do this trailer scene where they walk up the stairs of this medical place, and Chris MacNeil's looking at one of the demon daughters through the double-sided glass, and she's like, we've met before. And it's just goofy. You know, it's everything that you saw in the trailer. Very disappointing, very by the nose, very much something that we see in almost every run-of-the-mill possession film. It doesn't do anything special. It's very much regurgitated BS. So, which you should have a little bit higher expectations for something with the Exorcist name attached to it, but the disappointments seem to stack up right as Chris MacNeil comes into the movie, and it doesn't really recover after that. The dad and Chris MacNeil have this conversation that basically kind of ruins a lot of the old Exorcist lore by saying, you know, I never saw the actual exorcism. And the dad's like, oh, why is that? And she's like, I blame the patriarchy, you know, of the Catholic Church, just saying it's a male priest situation, so all women need to stay out of the room. No, that's not what happened at all. What happened is these two amazing hero priests went and they saved your daughter's life, and because you've seen so much of her crazy possession, they thought they'd do you a favor and make sure that you weren't in the room. And I'm sure, why would you want to be in the room for something like this, to see your daughter basically meet the devil? They did you a favor. They didn't kick you out because of your sex or whatever. It's just so goofy and so woke, and I know that terminology gets thrown around a lot, but it's just sad that we had to bring this up. And I think Scott Teems was the one who co-wrote this movie with David Gordon Green. But how silly. Yeah, blame the patriarchy. So that's just another way that this movie takes the legacy of the original Exorcist and just... So we get your run-of-the-mill exorcism scene where the demons are like, God played a trick on you. And we figure out that in the beginning, when the dad was approached with the choice to either save one or the other, do you want to save your wife or your baby? You can't pick both. You have to pick one or the other. And we find out that he picked his wife and not his daughter, which is like, whoa. Everybody would pick their daughter over their wife, but no, that's not what happened. So, of course, the demons torment him about that and his decision. So I found that kind of an interesting reveal. So that's another small redeeming quality here at the end. There is nothing special happening during this ending scene, But essentially, all these people get together, so you got all these different religions doing their thing. You know, in a woke culture, we can't have the Catholics exercise this and be done with it. We have to have Judaism, we have to have Buddhism, we have to have weird voodoo, we have to have all these different religions and all these different people. And it's so community based. It's just like evil dies tonight, you know, like Halloween Kills. Evil dies tonight! It is so silly and completely inappropriate for an exorcism film, in my opinion. So in typical David Gordon Green fashion, there's an ultimatum. You have to pick one or the other, and of course the devil is being tricky. They're like, oh, we gotta pick our daughter. So Olivia O'Neill's character ends up passing away, and the other one ends up living. And it's really sad, because at the end of the movie, we lose a kid. So at the very least, I guess they were willing to go the extra mile and take one of the kids, I guess. Which, you know, I wasn't super sad at the end of the movie when the other girl ended up passing away, because I really wasn't attached to her in any way. When you write movies like this, you really don't care about the characters, so when she passed away at the end, I was like, oh, whatever. I didn't really have high expectations for anything, and I wasn't attached to any of these characters by the end, so whatever. It's just kind of one of those movies that just ended, and you're like, oh, blah, that's it? Okay. So I walked out of the theater pretty disappointed. If I could do it all again, I wouldn't necessarily want my money back, because I thought it was worth seeing the movie just based on Chris Nelson's awesome makeup, but the story was blah, and I can't believe they're gonna have a trilogy of this garbage. So that means we're gonna have 2 more movies, one of which is supposed to be called The Exorcist Deceiver, coming at you in April of 2025. So look out for that pile of poo. It should be interesting. We'll see if it even happens, because this movie was a box office bomb compared to the $400 million that they forked up to buy the franchise. I don't know what the next step is. Apparently they're going to make 2 more movies, so we'll see if they do that. But yeah, what did you think of the movie? Are you going to buy it when it comes out on digital or 4K? Are you going to buy the Blu-ray? Would you recommend it to your friends? Did you hate it? Did you love this movie? I want to hear from some people who really enjoyed this movie. I want to say I'm kind of in the middle. It's no different than any other possession movie. It's nothing super special. And you think Ellen Burstyn coming back would change that? But she's kind of past her prime too, as we saw in this movie, and it really didn't help things. In my opinion, it kind of ruined things for the legacy of the Exorcist franchise. I thought it was great how they left it with Exorcist 3, especially being able to come back from Exorcist 2, The Heretic, which is known as the worst sequel, not just horror sequel, the worst sequel in movie history. And the fact that they were able to come back from The Exorcist 2 and make something amazing like The Exorcist 3, they really patched things up, and you left the Exorcist franchise on a positive note. But with this one, it really just kind of stains the legacy of the Exorcist franchise. So anyways, let me know what you think. Comment down below. If you liked the video, share it. If you didn't, dislike it. I'm really happy that you took time out of your day to watch my review, and it just blows me away that we're at 270 subscribers and that 270 people enjoy what I post on a weekly basis. So thank you for watching. Thank you for liking my videos. Well, for now, that's all I have to say. I've said my piece. Now it's time to hear yours.